Welcome to the world, Joan. Today I want to talk about what is partly living off the grid. And it's really quite simple. You still have your lights and your water, and that makes the government, or whatever you want to put it as, the people who own these companies, happy. Under zoning and regulations, they say you have to have these things hooked up. And that's fine. Partly living off the grid is just basically people who starts raising more of their own food. Partly living off the grid is using solar energy and using wind power energy. And they have a system that runs into the lights. And then my understanding is that the government or the companies who own them, these electric companies or whatever, will pay you for the SSE usage. So that comes out pretty good when it's like that. Water and sewage. Many of the places catching rainwater is illegal. Reason a lot of people started collecting their own rainwater. One reason was cost. Another reason, a lot of people would rather use natural rainwater for their gardens. They don't want all that chlorine and stuff that is treated in the water, the fluoride. You could still probably do that. You just got to be a little more careful. Instead of having your rain barrel sitting outside where they can see it, fix it up in the basement, fix it in the garage. If you got a shed, create a rain gutter for it. Catch it in the shed. It doesn't have to be where they can see it. Two huge tanks of those 55-gallon drums of water will save you a great deal of money. It will keep your costs down. During the summer months especially, you got people that's filling up their outdoor pools. You got people watering their plants and stuff. And they use a great deal more water. Another way is not keep putting everything in the freezer. I've talked to people every chance I can about nature. I talk to people every chance I can about different ways of saving. One way is canning. Another way is drying your food. And using things to dry your food with and canning with, and not be dependent on electricity to do it. Yes, it's hand cranked for some of the stuff. It's hand pumping it for some of it to seal the lids with. But you're not dependent on electricity because you don't know what could happen. Everybody talks about SHTF. Well, it happens time and time and time again. You have floods, you have hurricanes, you have tornadoes. Down in Tennessee, from where I'm from, they had a water pollution problem. In other states, the same way. And you've seen people lining up with these buckets and pitchers and stuff getting water because none of them ever thought about being prepared. It's good to have several extra jugs of water on hand. I'm not saying you got to turn around and have 10 55-gallon drums hid in a closet somewhere. I'm not saying that. But it's good to have some of it, living off the grid and being backed up prepared. It's good to use a little gas stove. I use a propane stove for me to heat my food up and stuff with because it is just me. There's no need of me cutting my little electric stove on every time I need to, just for something for 2 or 3 minutes. And it serves my purpose just fine. Plus, I'm not burning all that electricity up. So it's a lot to think about. How can I save money? And how can I partly live off the grid without getting in trouble? Simple enough, you start raising some of your own food. Simple enough, you do research. You teach yourself, or you can reteach yourself how to do a lot of things. Find someone who knows about the outdoors and what wild edible plants there is. Believe it or not, these plants that most people call weeds are edible. Most of these plants people call weeds are natural medicines. And it's smart to learn about every bit of that. So you need to think about all that when you do things like that. I'm not telling you to be gloom and doom and think and see something bad around every corner. I'm saying, there's ways to live off the grid some and save money. There's ways of fixing that little stackables containers that they fix up and plant their plants in it. That's worth wondering. I've seen them using skids and putting it up against the wall and creating it so they could put plants in it to not take up so much room and raise their own fresh herbs and stuff. There is nothing wrong with it. You can partly live off the grid, still have all the comforts of home. You can still have your TVs. You can still have your computers and your video games and everything you enjoy. And at the same time, you can still save some money. You can go down to the store and buy those solar lamps, set them up, fix them up in mason jars or whatever you want to create, charge them up during the day outside, bring them in the house at night. Instead of having a bathroom light on all night, you got one of those solar lamps sitting on the back of the toilet. You could have one of them sitting next to your bed. Your children will love these lamps. You can spray a little spray paint on them, create some color in them, and make it their responsibility to go out every day, charge their little lamps up, set it in their room at night, and they got light. And guess what? You're saving money. That money is going to go on something else instead. And then the winter months, when you pay out so much more, the bills are still going to be very reasonable. So there's nothing wrong with living off the grid. Do your research. See how you can save a few dollars by maybe raising a few of your plants, different ways you can raise them. Save a few dollars by figuring out how to catch your rainwater without getting in trouble. Save a few dollars by using solar lights instead of your electricity all the time. Instead of having that lamp on next to your chair at night while you're watching TV. Just have your solar lamp. Think about it. There's ways of doing things, and there's ways of us living partly off the grid without making everybody else mad. And you can have a little bit more money in your pocket because it'll pay for itself. So from the world of JOAN, be safe, be happy, bless you all.